There are a lot of obvious problems with hagwons, and I don't think anyone really likes them. But they're kind of a necessary evil, and I understand why they exist. But I think the really bad thing about them is that they make education not only a function of intelligence and hard work, but also a function of money. A very long time ago when I was in college, I was taking an education class. It wasn't my choice, but I was forced to take this class on educating and education. And we kind of had a subject which was, in America, this new thing, kind of newish now, but kind of old, coming out called Common Core, which is a series of things that high school and middle school and elementary kids have to do. They must know X. Everybody in our gigantic country must study this subject. And the way that they know if you studied the subject or not is by giving a standardized test every single year to every single student in all of America. I believe it's the exact same test for every single student. Now, in our class, we had this big debate, which was, look, nobody wants to give standardized tests to a fourth grader. Because if you start getting information from the standardized test, if you give incentives to teachers to make sure their students can do well on those standardized tests, the teachers, instead of teaching the subjects the way they want and teaching them purely for the reason that they need to educate them, the teachers will start teaching to the test. Instead of teaching them things they need to know just for their knowledge, they start teaching them so they can pass a test. And that means that kids aren't really learning. They're just learning how to pass a test, which is bad. Now, on the flip side, we need data. We need data about what's happening in schools. We need to see which schools are performing well and which schools are performing poorly, and why they're performing well and why they're performing poorly, so that we could tweak them and change them so we can make a better education system for everyone in America. So these were the two conflicting ideas, and I don't know the right answer. But I don't particularly like Common Core, but I don't know what the right answer is. And these tests don't affect your grades or your standing or anything like that. They're really just used for data. Maybe you need them to pass to the next level, like next grade, but they're really not about that. And when I think about all the stress that Korean people go through with all their standardized tests, TOEIC, TEFL, weird tests you have to take to get a certificate in Microsoft Word and Excel and blah, 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 blah. Like, a lot of Korean people's lives is taking a lot of these standardized tests, so I thought it would look kind of funny to them. But this kind of exemplifies something I want to get to, which is there's kind of two sides to education. There's like the real utilitarian side, and then there's kind of the romantic, like, education for the sake of education side. So let's talk about education for the sake of education. There's this, I mean, why do we have public schools? Why do we have public libraries? Why do we think like there is some amount of education everyone deserves for free or at least cheap? I mean, why do we have public universities, right? What would happen if tomorrow the government decided to privatize Seoulde? People would be pissed off. What if they decide to privatize high schools and middle schools and elementary schools? They'd be pissed off because there's this idea which is every human deserves some amount of education. Because what are we? What are humans? Yes, we're a body, we're flesh, we're blood, but what we really are is this. What we really are is our consciousness, our brain. I believe it was Rene Descartes who said, "I think, therefore I am." What he meant was, the only thing I can be certain of is my thought. The only thing that is me is my thought. I don't know if you know, like, we could be in the Matrix. You know, this might all be fake, might be a virtual reality. You might have been born 1 second ago, but you were implanted with all these memories, or blah, 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 blah. All we know for sure is that my consciousness exists. That's what we are as a consciousness. And everyone deserves a right to fulfill their life and to live out their pursuit of happiness. Everyone deserves a right to pursue happiness. And one of the routes for doing that is to educate yourself. Is to make your consciousness better, quicker, more aware of your surroundings. So I think deep in the core, even if you haven't thought about it that way, everyone knows everyone deserves a chance in education. And if we lived in a perfect world where people didn't care about money and didn't need to get a better job, but didn't need to feed their family, you would just choose, whatever major you wanted in university. You would choose to educate yourself in whatever fascinated you the most. But unfortunately, as all of you know, the world doesn't work that way. So there's this other more realistic utilitarian part about education, which is educating yourself to give you a job. Educating yourself to make it so that, one of the most, what we consider very American things is to go from being very poor to being able to make yourself into anything you want, to being able to be rich, to being able to be president, to being able to do whatever you want. And the best means to do that is through education. So there's this very real idea that yes, education is something you should enjoy, and it should be something that fulfills you and makes you interested in things and makes you know about the world around you. But also it's a means to equalize this very unequal life we've all been given, where some people are born poor and some people are born rich. We want there to be a path so that anyone could become not just rich, but fulfilled and live a life they want to live. And education is the way through that. And I think nobody knows that better than Korean people. Korean people are very realistic about this idea. And sometimes we romanticize the idea and think anyone could do it, but Korean people are much more realistic in that, like, you need to pass that test. You need to do that. And this is the part that really rubs me the wrong way. Hagwons give this tremendous advantage to people who have enough money to go to Hagwons. Not just the best Hagwons, but have more time to go to Hagwons. Not just that, like I told you, the problem I had with the Common Core and testing in America, the idea of giving tests is to just try to measure people's learning, measure how much they've been educated. And when you teach just to a test, it blurs what's actually happening, because you're not learning material. You're trying to get there's this much material and you're trying to figure out how much of it you know. So you give a test on some random part of that material. But when you're giving a test and you only concentrate on the certain parts that the test is going to give, you don't really care about all the other education that's going on around it. So Hagwons not only give this huge advantage to people who have money, it also gets rid of that whole idea of education for the purpose of education. Fulfilling your own consciousness, to make you a better person, to make you better understand what's going on around you. Look, Hagwons are bad for a million reasons, and there's some reasons they're good. But one of the reasons, the first reasons that come to my mind, and maybe I think the first reason that come to most Korean people's mind, is this picture. Korean people lived it, so I never had to live that. And I think the first picture that comes to their minds is kids losing their youth, sitting in a tiny, I don't know how big the room is, but sitting in a room with fluorescent lights peering down. You don't know if it's 3 p.m. or if it's midnight, and just spending all day in this Hagwon so you can possibly do a little bit better on Sunung or TOEIC or TOEFL or whatever standardized test, so you can get a little bit of an edge, and just pouring all of your time and energy and money into this place that you guys don't like, but it's kind of necessary. And that is definitely bad. But to me, and I think to a lot of Americans, the really bad thing is this idea that rich people will be able to exploit education more and get ahead. Rich people will be able to go to better Hagwons, be able to spend more time at Hagwons, in those Hagwons where they'll teach you how to master tests. Instead of thinking about education, they'll teach you how to master tests so that people who have a lot of money can go to the best schools, and people who don't have a lot of money might not have the opportunities to go to better schools, and they'll have a harder, if not impossible, time to use education to climb up the ladder and get the life they want, and get the life they deserve, that everyone deserves a chance at. And really, the thing that makes me sad, makes me angry, and I think the thing that would make many Americans angry, is this institutionalized unfairness that comes out of Hagwons. So if you like my video, give it a thumbs up. If you hate my video, give it a thumbs down. I don't think what I'm saying is particularly new, but I just want to show you guys that, like, fairness might not exist as much as we want it to in America, but we kind of feel it as an American ideal. And I know Korean people know everything that I've said, but I really wanted to press that. That's what's kind of gross to me. And so if you agree with me or don't agree with me, of course leave comments. If you have something to add, leave comments. Always leave comments, because I love comments. Remember, every Friday at 7 p.m. these videos come out, so if it's after 7 p.m. and it's Friday, please check it out. And of course, the most important thing, Have a super awesome day.